Pioneer. Yo, what's going on guys? EJ here, bringing another Lord of the Rings Rise of the War video. Today guys, I'm going to be going over the best formations for the good side. So how the video is going to work, you can see that I have all these sections here of men, elves, dwarves, mounted, focus, damage, mixed and healing. These are going to be our types of formations. We're going to be placing 4 commanders in each section, making a different formation of which one's going to be the best for all these different types. Now, I'm going to be placing it from 1, 2, 3, 4 for the different sections in a formation. So, if I place the commander at the number 1 position in that line, then that's going to be the leading commander. So, yeah, we're going to get straight into it. I've got, as you can see, I have multiple commanders here. A couple of doubles, because you will see a few commanders used a couple of times. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. And let's, build these formations and show you what the best formations are for the good side. So starting off, we'll just go from top to bottom. So we have men. So for men units, I feel like the best commander for the leader is going to be Isildur. So we're going to place him up there. Following Isildur, I would be placing King of Men, Aragorn, up into the men section. Now in the 3rd position, I recommend a really good commander, Boromir. So we're going to place him up into the 3rd position. And for the 4th, for the manish, we're going to be placing Faramir. He has really good rush abilities and does some good physical damage as well. So that's our first formation for the men. If you just want a little bit of information, so Isildur has some really good follow-up. These guys all have some good physical damage, but of course Boromir with his Warden skill is super OP. And yeah, that's a really good formation for your men units. Moving on to elves. So for elves, I highly recommend you want to use either Gil-galad or Elrond as your leader. I usually use Gil-galad. Following that, in my 2nd position, I would place Elrond. In my 3rd position, I would put Círdan. And then in your 4th position, you have multiple choices here. But my favorite pick here would be Celeborn. He's really good. Now, Thranduil is another really good pick as well that I could place there. So you could put him there as well. But that is my go-to 4 that I really like for the elves. Now for dwarves, this is pretty straightforward. The first commander you want to be putting straight up the top as your leader is, of course, Dain. Followed by our good old strong boy, Gimli, who does really good physical damage. In your 3rd position, you want to put Faugin. He's really good at buffing the defense and that of the dwarves. And then the 4th one, I like to put in Dwalin right there. So yeah, that's my best formation for my dwarves. Okay, for mounted, I like to use Theoden as my leading commander in my mounted, followed by Éomer. In my 3rd position, I like to place Éowyn. And then in the 4th position, I like to place Imrahil. Okay, focus commanders. Now, for focus commanders, you can either use Gandalf the White or Galadriel as your leader. I like to use Gandalf the White the most. In my 2nd position, because I'm using him first, I will use Galadriel. And then in my 3rd position, I will use Gandalf the Grey. And in my final position, I will use King of the Dead. These guys do a fantastic amount of focus damage, as well as some madness abilities as well. Okay, moving on to damage. If you want to just have a full physical damage formation, of course you want to be starting off with Dain. He is absolute fantastic. Now, my 2nd position, who is absolutely maybe a surprise for you, is Beron. Absolutely fantastic physical damage, placing him up the top there. In our 3rd position, we have Gimli, of course, doing a ton of physical damage. And in my 4th position, there's multiple choices that you can pick here. But I feel like King of Men is a really good pick, so I like to place him up there like such. If you want to have some alternatives, you could put such as Éomer, for example. Or even another surprising commander who's quite good is Legolas as well. Okay, for your mixed, there is quite a fair few commanders that you could use at the start. Like, you could use like Galadriel, for example, is really good, and of course Dane and stuff like that. But in my mixed one, I like to use Isildur as my starting mixed. So this is one of my favorite builds. And then in my second position, I like to use Gandalf the White, because he does a lot of focus damage and it does a lot of commander damage. And it's really nice there. In my third position, I like to use Boromir, because of course of his Warden skill is really, really good. And then in my fourth position, I like to use Gandalf the Grey, because he has really good healing from the Grey. And yeah, that's how my mixed formation I usually use. I also sometimes put Dane instead of Boromir, but I think that this is a really good mixed build. Now for healing, which is not that good, there is multiple commanders that you can use. So as your leader, I would be using Galadriel as your absolute leader. In your second position, you have a few choices, and I feel like the best selection here is Radagast. So then I place my Radagast in. Now in our third position, I always use Círdan, really good. And as you can see, these guys all have a lot of healing. But then I want to have someone who can also help as well. And one that I really like to put in is Merry and Pippin, because they have some Warcry skills and that do a lot of extra damage as well. And it's going to really work in effect with all the healing commanders. So yeah, that's all that we have. As you can see, we have some spares. So we're just going to have some substitutes that we can place in. So in the Dwarves, of course, you can always substitute and put a Thorin in there, for example. In the Focused, I would always recommend Treebeard is really good because he has some abilities that buff a lot of focus. In your Mounted as well, I recommend another good one to put in there is Boromir, which I don't think I have a spare one to place here, for example. But yeah, Boromir can be placed in on the Mounted section as well. For other damage commanders, as you can see, which do really good, Gandalf the White is also another really good substitute to place in there. But yeah, also, yeah, there's a lot of combinations that you can do. But for the absolute really big ones, for Elves, I would either recommend probably someone that we don't have in there would definitely be Thranduil as a really good substitute to put in. For men, if you want a really good substitute, tier 2 of Aragorn. Now, for a mixed or physical damage or even Elves substitute, you have Legolas, but I think he's really best substitute for damage. Now, for mixed for a substitute, the best pick there that I would put would probably be Beron as a good substitute. And for healing, if you want to put anyone in as a really good substitute for healing, I would recommend Gandalf the Grey, which I don't have a spare, so I would definitely place him in as a absolute backup as well. But if I take those back out, just the substitutes so we don't get confused, I just wanted to show you a couple of ideas for some substitutes. This is our final setup for the good side of what I feel are some of the best formations for these sections. So you got your men of Isildur, King of the Men, Boromir and Faramir, your Elves of Gil, Elrond, Círdan, and Celeborn. Dwarves, you have Dane, Gimli, Falgin, and Dwalin. Mounted, you have Théoden, Éomer, Éowyn, and Imrahil. Focus, you have Gandalf the White, Galadriel, Gandalf the Grey, and of course, King of the Dead. Damage, we have Dane, Beron, Gimli, and King of Men. Mix, we have Isildur, Gandalf the White, Boromir, and Gandalf the Grey. And healing, we have Galadriel, Radagast, Círdan, and Merry and Pippin. Alright guys, well I hope you guys enjoyed this video and it helped you out a little bit. And until next time, peace out, EJ's out, and I'll catch you guys later. See yous.
Thousands songs of the EJU army. Yeah, you guys are legends to me, so let's keep on.